It's that time of year, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for a special Travelers Championship edition of Wednesdays with Woodward. I'm Joan Woodward, president of the Travelers Institute, and I'm really thrilled to welcome you to our program today. We're so glad you're here. Before we get started, I'd like to share our disclaimer about today's program. I'd also like to recognize our partners, TrustedChoice.com, the Masters in FinTech program at UConn, the National Association of Professional Independent Agents, CBIA, the Metro Hartford Alliance, and of course, the Travelers Championship. Thank you and welcome to all of your members and your networks. I'm thrilled to be here today to discuss an event that I and many others look forward to each year, the Travelers Championship Golf Tournament, the largest professional sporting event in the state of Connecticut. This June, once again, the world's top golfers will descend on Connecticut for a thrilling week of golf and entertainment. And it happens all at the TPC River Highlands, an award-winning golf course in Cromwell, Connecticut. I did not think it was possible, but it looks like this year is going to top last year. That's crazy. Last year was amazing. This year, it looks like to be epic. This year, the Travelers Championship is one of 8 exclusive PGA Tour signature events, which means commitments from the world's top golfers. It is the only PGA Tour event in the Northeast this year. I promise it's going to be amazing. Joining me today to talk about this year's sure-to-be history-making tournament are 2 individuals who are instrumental in making the Travelers Championship possible each year. Travelers Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer, Andy Bessette, and Travelers Championship Tournament Director, Nathan Grube. In addition to directing the tournament, Nathan is an Executive Director of the Greater Hartford Community Foundation. During Nathan's tenure, the Travelers Championship has generated more than $28 million for charity and has been recognized by the PGA Tour for several awards. First, the Players' Choice Award, which I think is probably the hardest award to get. So we're going to dig into that and talk about why they got that. Second, the Tournament of the Year. And third, Best Charity Integration. Nathan is a Class A member of the PGA of America and is an active member of the Connecticut section of the PGA. He played professional golf from 1996 to 2001, participating in tours throughout the Southeast. Andy Bessette is Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer here at Travelers. He wears many hats. He has responsibility for corporate real estate, administrative services, community relations, and internal investigations, among other things. He's a busy guy. Notably, he is also responsible for Travelers sports sponsorships, including our marketing partnership with the PGA Tour and title sponsorship, of course, of the Travelers Championship. He's an active in the community, serving on the boards of the Greater Hartford Community Foundation, as a trustee of the University of Connecticut, as vice chairman of the Capital Region Development Authority, and as past chair of the board of Metro Hartford Alliance, just to name a few folks. He's widely recognized for his community support and has been named to Hartford Business Journal's Power 50, and deserve it very well. Finally, Andy was a member of the 1980 United States Olympic team and continues to support Olympic Committee activities. So thank you both for joining us. We're absolutely thrilled you're here with us today. But before we get started, just to remind our audience that we want to hear from you as well. So drop those questions in the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen, and we're going to get to as many as we can. So guys, welcome to this fabulous studio. We're in Hartford, Connecticut, discussing this today together. Great. It's nice to be in person. But before we get started about this year's event, I really want to back up a minute, Andy, to talk about the history, Travelers' history with this tournament.
Yeah. And, you know, and I'll start back in time. But I have to say first, and you're going to see this, Nathan and I have been working together for 20 years. And so we're like brothers. I mean, we're like punch at each other. We're not physically. We just like kind of
no violence on my watch,
but just punk jokes and make jokes and stuff like that. So it said that Nathan's a Class A member of the PGA. That's really cool stuff. That's really good. But we're members, Joan, of the Class A of Travelers. So we have a Class A too, right? It's us.
That's right.
So just make sure we equal too, right,
Right.
Nathan? So, but anyway, so we did. Nathan and I first met each other back in 2005, and at the time, the PGA Tour was trying to convince us to be one of the proud partners of the Players Championship in Florida, and it didn't really fit what we wanted for community and charity. And so what we did was we kept looking, and believe it or not, in 2006, a company, 84 Lumber in Pennsylvania, decided to no longer be a PGA Tour title sponsor. And they called me up and said, "Hey, Andy, we got a great opportunity the week after the U.S. Open. You can take the spot of 84 Lumber." And at just about that same time, the PGA Tour had announced that the tournament that had been here in Connecticut since 1960, actually no, 1952, was off the scoreboard. It was it was no longer a tournament. It was dead. And so we came in and said, "Sure, we'll take the spot of 84 Lumber and we'll become the title sponsor of the new Travelers Championship," which you, I didn't say this publicly, but you guys killed, and now it's back to life.
Okay.
So people in 2006, once this was all came out in April of 2006, everybody was going crazy. He was like, "Travelers saved it. It's no more Hartford Whalers moving to Carolina," kind of thing, and all that. So it was a big, big, big deal, and it still is to this day. I have people stopping me on the street saying, "Thank you for saving this tournament." And so in '07, when Nathan and I first put on the first tournament, right, we had one rule: status quo is unacceptable. We have to always get better because we want to be world class. We could barely get a player to come play the tournament in 2007, right, Nathan? It was like brutal recruiting. But every year we stepped up further. We renewed. Jay Fishman was our chairman and CEO at the time, and we stepped up further. We did more commitments to the tour, longer term extensions, and we did it because it fit the community and charity that we embrace so strongly at Travelers, with volunteerism and charity. And last year we gave over $24 million to Travelers. In the Travelers Championship, we gave over $3 million to 180 charities. So it really fits together very, very well. And it has all the way through time. And fast forwarding to 2001, we signed up until 2030. And then we were an elevated event. I have to get all these words right. In 2023, we were, quote unquote, an elevated event, which means we had a bigger purse than all the other tournaments. And then right after the 23 tournament, I negotiated the signature status, which gave us, that's a whole different thing. And we laid that on top of our commitment to 2030. And we are the only signature partner on the PGA Tour that goes out to 2030.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So that's unique. So wonderful. Thank you for that history. Nathan, what's it mean really for the community that a company like ours dedicates such resources, time, money, volunteers? I mean, this is embedded in our culture now. I mean, this is really part of our DNA at Travelers to host this tournament. What does it mean from a community perspective?
Totally unique. And first of all, thanks for having us, Joan. There is not another relationship like this on the PGA Tour where the title sponsor is this engaged with the tournament. And honestly, the other tournaments around the country often say to me, "How did you get your title this involved? How did you get them to care this much? How did you get them to have close to 1,000 volunteers? How did you get the executive leadership so engaged in the event to take this event to the next level?" And I said, this is the only way they do business. They do business. This event is something that they care about deeply. They take it personal, and everybody out here is their customer. And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, the players, the fans, the corporate partners, the media, they treat this tournament exactly how they run their business. These are our customers. How do we serve them? How do we take care of them? How do we provide them what they need? How do we anticipate what they're going to need? And from the beginning, that is how the Travelers has treated this. So from a tournament standpoint, it's unheard of that you get a title that engaged and they look at it that way. A lot of other titles will look at tournaments and say, "What can I get out of this event? You know, I'm going to put my logo on it. Right? What's in it for?" And again, I don't fault them for that, but it's like, how do we get our branding out of this? And Travelers does all of that. Obviously, they look at that, but they also look at, how do we treat people like they're our customer? And from the charities as well. So when you start with that mentality of how do we take care of the people that we now basically we're responsible for, it just flipped the paradigm on what this event was, where it's going. The players noticed a difference. Andy started coming out with me on tour immediately to talk to the guys, and he would say, how do we make this better? And
You came with me on tour.
that's
Yeah,
fair.
that's
That's
right.
fair. I came with him on tour. No, one of the
That's
greatest, Joan, one of the greatest stories is right at the beginning. Andy said, "I want to know how to make this event better. Like what do we do?" So we started asking the players, the caddies. One of the greatest things is we actually went into the TV compound at an event, which is a scary place to go at events, right? I mean, there's tents, it's a very dark place. From a lighting standpoint and just food and beverage, and it's all the people that are responsible for putting on the show, all the crews that are laying the wires, the camera people.
It's a lot, right?
It's all the people that are putting down sandbags. They're there at 4 a.m. They stay until midnight. It's the crew that puts on the show. And we were at an event and we walk in behind this tent and sit down and start eating lunch with these crews. And they don't know who we are. And Andy's like, "Hey, how do we make the Travelers Championship better?" And the people are like, "I'm sorry, what?" And we're like, no, how do we make it better for you? And they're like, well, actually, it would be helpful if we had this, or, water is hard to get, water bottles, or, rain gear or whatever. So sure enough, the crews start showing up at our event. They start getting rain gear. They start getting gifts. They start getting it. I mean, I would say Travelers took the tour by storm in how they did their business.
And that's how we remember back in 2006, before we were titled. Well, we were titled we were entitled, but remember the 2006 tournament was still the old title. And our single purpose of that whole tournament was to watch, learn what could be done better. And we sat, I never forget this. I sat with Mike Tirico and I said, "Mike, what can we do to be better? I want to be the best." And he knew my background and he said, "Andy, come on, sit down." And we sat down, he gave me a list of 10 things to do. And I've known Mike very well for all these years. I just saw him at the Masters. And I said to him, "I think I finished the list of 10. He goes, "You finished my list of 10 years ago." He said, "You're onto a list I never made up." But we got Jim Nance's feedback. We got Mike Tirico's feedback. We got the players, the golfers, the caddies, Joey LaCava. We had everybody on tour. Anybody that would listen to us, right?
Yeah. Nathan, anybody would listen
they'd say, "Oh, you should do blah, 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 blah." The last piece of that is Jay Monahan, the now commissioner of the tour, has become a really close, dear friend, because in 06, I called him up and said, "Hey, Jay, I heard," he was working for Fenway Partners at the time. And I said, what can we do to be world-class golf tournament? He goes, "I'm coming up with a couple of my people. We're going to spend a half a day." Really? Wow. So he came from Boston, came over to Hartford, sat down with us, and he said, "This is what you need to do in half a day." And that started a friendship that's been strong ever since. And so, but that's what you do in the first year, right? What Nathan was saying was you engage anybody that'll talk to you.
Absorbing mode, right?
Yeah.
And it's two things. I think there are two key pieces. You have to be willing to ask, and then you have to be willing to actually do what they suggest. And so there are people who will ask, like, "Oh, thanks." They put that opinion away. But when everybody started seeing we were actually making the changes they were recommending, people are like, "Oh, this is different. It's different up there."
Yeah.
Well, we only do, Travelers, we only do things where we're all in. We have to be all into something because we want to own it.
That's us.
We are all in on this. So, so Nathan, as you talk to other tournament directors that have title sponsors, like different companies, right? A lot of insurance companies have tournaments. In your experience, when you hear from those other tournament directors, they're not having that much engagement with the companies that they're working with?
So I'll give you an example.
And do they want that?
That's a great question.
Do they want that?
So sometimes there's competing agendas, right, between host organization and title. I would say that from the beginning, we have tried to be completely aligned with what our goals were with this event between my team and the Travelers team. We are one. But it's funny, you asked that question about just communication and feedback. I have my counterparts that will say they will say this: we have quarterly meetings with our title sponsor 4 times a year. So that is their engagement.
Wow.
They say, "What's your engagement with your title?" And I say, Fridays at 10 a.m. They're like, "What, leading into the tournament?" I'm like, "No, from September through July." And they're like, "Wait a minute, whoa. You spend every Friday with your title sponsor, an hour with your title sponsor, and you have their leadership engaged. And I said, 100%. We are meeting with them." And they're like, "I don't even know what I would do with that type of engagement." Right. But that was the only way, to your point, you guys both said it, that is the only way the Travelers knows how to do things.
It is.
Hey, how do we make it better? And so literally every Friday for the entire year, starting in September, we get August, we get to take some time off.
Yeah,
okay. You do. We start without you.
You do start without, I have to catch up on the minutes.
No, I'm only kidding.
but it's I would say it's
Amazing.
unprecedented on the tour.
So I have to say, all of this, we just talked about the total engagement, the fact that we are all in on this.
Mhm.
It had to have something to do with us being labeled a signature event, right? When you say you've known Jay Monahan and asked for his advice for the last
Mhm.
15
20
years or
years.
so,
Yeah,
you know,
oh,
of
yeah.
how to make us better,
Yeah.
we had to have been viewed by the PGA as one of the top, you know, entities. No, it wasn't that way.
No way.
No way.
No
It was.
way.
We had no
they-
upper
right,
hand
Nathan,
in
from-
getting
from
signatures. So
I'm
how
not
did it happen?
exaggerating at all. In 07, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, we were like, I can't say it, but
Don't say it.
we were just like, we were like a pain.
We were begging for
And
everything.
Okay.
we were
But
nothing.
now, but the fact that you listened and you've changed and you've adjusted the turn, absorbed all the
Yeah,
feedback,
yeah.
that had to have helped us get the
It
signature.
did. Well,
maybe.
it did. It
Yeah.
built over the years,
Over the
right?
years.
In, I would say about 17, 18, so maybe 10 years into it, our fields were starting to improve, and that's a different conversation we'll have in a minute, but our fields were starting to improve, and we're getting a lot of phenomenal feedback, winning awards and all this stuff. And then by, I would say, 2019-ish, the tour was saying, geez, you guys do, everybody was starting to recognize what we were doing. And that's what, I would say from 19 to 24, that's what catapulted us to the signature status
Okay.
now.
I'll give you one story on this, Joan. So when we started, I remember a reporter put a microphone in my face and said, "What did you do to make the PGA Tour so angry that they gave you the week after the U.S. Open?"
Oh.
And for those listening and watching,
Yeah.
the week after the U.S. Open had historically always been a very difficult
Dead,
day to
right.
get players to come. The guys and their families are exhausted after the U.S. Open. They usually like to take the week after the Open off. So the tournaments that historically had been placed after the U.S. Open
Right.
had been let's just put them there.
Mm.
So I remember literally the microphone in my face. What did you do to
Mm.
make the tour so angry to get the week after
Wow.
the Open? And I gave
Yeah.
some media answer. I don't even remember what it was.
Right.
So fast forward to Andy's point, about 10 or 12 years later, the tournament starts to be what it is. The player fields, the hard work that we were putting in is starting to pay off. You start to see it. And I remember it was a different reporter stuck a microphone in my face and said, "What did you do to get so lucky to be the week after the U.S. Open? Because
Yeah.
obviously it's the week that just made things." And Andy and I were like, how the world has turned.
Yeah.
But there was a statement that we used. It was a mantra that we kept saying, going, the date will not make the tournament.
Yeah.
The tournament will
Right.
make the date.
Mhm.
And we flipped it to that week becoming one of the premier weeks on tour, where the tour was basically like, how did you make the week after the U.S.
Actually, it
Open?
brought out the competitiveness in both of our teams.
Right.
Yeah.
And we said, okay,
We're so
you
on.
think we're going to fail being the
Yeah.
week after? We're going to show you.
Perfect.
And nothing makes a better athlete than being a little bit
Right.
irritated.
Joan, let me tell you what you never want to say to this man is you can't do
do
this.
it. Yes, I
I
found
have
out.
seen it happen, and
yeah.
I have seen the look
Never
on
said
his
it.
face.
I never
and
said
it
it.
did. And
Right.
so let's just say,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
he felt like the tour was saying, you can't make that week successful. Just have fun with
Just
this tournament.
right.
Andy's like, oh, no.
Hmm.
So it's been
Okay,
a fun ride.
I'm going to reclaim the conversation.
sorry.
Getting back to
Sorry.
the signature. I knew this would happen.
Apologize.
I have to insert my moderator.
Yes.
So we're a signature event now.
Mhm.
Last year we were.
Yeah.
This year we are. There's no
Yeah.
guarantee for the future, right?
Yeah. Well,
Right.
well, yeah.
There's
Our contract goes out to 2030 as a signature event.
is that as a signature event.
Yeah.
To 2030.
Yeah, but the
So-
tour, but the tour could change anytime.
Anytime.
They could say, well, we're going to change the concept and not do this, not do that. So you're right. I mean, it's every year, you earn your stripes every year.
Every year. Okay. So for this year, the designation, what does it mean for the player field? I want to talk about, do players now view this as a must do or almost must do? And is that different than being a non-signature event? Obviously, the money is different, right?
Yeah.
This is a technicality.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So being a signature event just means there's qualification standards that each player has to meet to
Okay.
be able to play the event. None of them have to play the event.
Okay.
None. And so all the work, Nathan, that you and I have done over the last 20 years, 18 years, 19 years at building relationships has come in even more handy now that we're signature with a $20 million purse. When it gets 3.6 million, no cut for 4 days, all that stuff. That's all great. But that's why this year we've been out four times.
Yeah.
And we go see the guys all the time, keep building our relationship, send out onesies. We'll talk to Meredith and Scotty about the baby before the baby was born now. And life goes on, right? And so we build relationships with the players as much as last week we were in Charlotte at Wells Fargo.
Okay, so how's the prep different for this event versus a non elevated event or signature event? Is there a different prep from your end, Nathan, with your team on the ground? We're going to talk about the course in a minute, but like, do we have more sponsors, for example, because of it?
We do. So I'll start with just the basics. More sponsors, more people spending money with us, more ticket buyers. That just everybody. There's more people that want to be involved with the event, which is awesome. We're pulling more from Boston than we ever have. Obviously, with Keegan Bradley as our champion, that helped. But more Boston media are paying attention. We're the only PGA Tour event in New England, and that has mattered. So I would say there's more, right? Just kind of everything. But what I kind of feel for our team is there's a sense of pressure of like, okay, you're one of the top events on the PGA Tour now. What are you going to do with it? And how you have taken your week that you had before, and you have been one of the best. Now we're giving you a platform of the best. And Andy and I have said, well, we want to be the best of the best. And we made it very clear at Media Day. We said, we want to be, of the 8 signature events, we want to be the top signature event. So what does that mean? And that means taking our same mentality and just raising the bar for everyone on property. And the players have already noticed it, the stuff that we're talking about doing. The media has already noticed it. Our sponsors who are getting involved with us, new sponsors for the first time have already noticed it. So, and all that is going to translate, Joan, to more dollars for charity. Right? So, I mean, it's all like that. At the end of the day, if we do our job well, if we compete and we win, you know, our definition of winning, what's going to translate is we are going to continually break charity records for this tournament. And that's a goal.
But what's still important, though, is that we run it like a business. This is a business. This is a business just like any business. And I think this is important, Nathan, because Nathan, in order to have net revenues go to charity, that means revenues have to be greater than, guess what, expenses, right? And so we're managing expenses all the time. We just made an expense decision last week that saved $45,000. And that we're every day we look to cut expenses, not cut the experience, but cut expenses and sell more revenue. Last week I get so silly sometimes. I sold a sponsorship to a candy manufacturer in Connecticut, and you know, for a few $1,000s. I was so excited. It was not the biggest one that you've had, right? But it was like
a quota every day that he has to hit.
He has a quota. You give him a quota.
Yeah, I do. I give him a week. I'm like, did you hit your quota this week?
But it's fun. I mean, it's the little stuff that it's a battle. It's a battle of little wins. And there's the big ones too. Like Stanley Black & Decker was a great. Don Allen, who's their chairman and CEO.
Don Allen sat with me about a year ago on this show, Andy. So you're in very good company. As did Karen Lynch.
He's one of our
wonderful. They're another big partner.
Karen has been great too. I mean, so I wonder how that happens. That's really good. I wonder who else we know.
I have a friend with a really nice Rolodex who lets me borrow it from time to time. Thank you, Andy. Bring us Stanley and bring us.
But they have a big sponsorship now, much bigger. And Don has been such a great sponsor, and Karen is at CVS. They both are. But there are others too. Webster Bank subsidizes and runs Nathan's whole Birdies for Charity program. And so that's phenomenal.
All right. Back to the script.
She's like, again, let's go back. Sorry.
We are going to talk about the players now because let's talk about who we're going to see on the green. We have 6 kind of, I'm going to say, you know, true rock stars out there. Andy, talk about Scotty. You said they just had their baby. And
they had the baby, Bennett. And
did we send him a little onesie with a Travis?
Oh, yeah. Actually, we're going bigger with that because Scotty's a really close friend of the tournament and me and Nathan. And Rory is. I spent half an hour with Rory in Wells Fargo last week. I haven't talked to Rory that long for years. And so we had great conversations about stuff. The 70 to 80 players in our field will all be world-class players who the top 70, 80 in the world who are qualified to play on a PGA Tour event. Have to be careful of that. And because there are a few live guys that are still in there. But you know, hopefully that all gets worked out too here before the end of the year. And I get good vibes from people. We'll see what happens. But I think it would be good and be helpful to reunify golf a little bit and get us back on track.
Okay. All right, Nathan, how about some of these players we're seeing on the screen now?
It's
any stories, any thoughts?
Oh, stories on all of them. But I would say that
ones you could tell on this.
It's funny. I'm looking at this. You see the #1 ranked player in the world, #2, #6, #8. I mean, I'm looking at the top 10 just on that list with Rory and Ludwig and Patrick and Victor and Keegan. I mean, Andy, in the first few years, we had probably 3 of the top 50, and now there's like 6 or 7 of the top 10 that are already committed this early. 32 days out. And you are going to see the strongest field we've ever seen. I mean, the players that are going to be added to this list, I mean, for our fans, for our corporate sponsors, for those that are going to watch on TV, I mean, it's just going to be an amazing show. And so I look at these guys and I look at the guys we're going to announce, and then the ones that Andy announces, you know, outside.
But I didn't announce, but wait, a funny story.
I'm pretty
if
sure
you like,
saying Jordan's coming.
if you want a story. So Keegan Bradley is so cute. What a great guy, great family. And he calls me up. Okay, this was back like in maybe October, November. We were talking about something. If we were going to use him in Boston for something. And he said to me, "You wouldn't believe what happened to me yesterday." What happened? I was at a coffee shop. He has a home up north of Boston on the shore.
Yeah.
And he said, I went into the coffee shop with my son, not Cooper.
Logan?
Logan.
Yeah.
And we go into the coffee shop. We go up to the counter and say, "What's your name?" They put in my coffee cup. Keegan. Just call me Keegan. And Logan goes, "You know, my dad won the Travelers Championship. He's the champion of the Travelers Championship." And so Keegan says to me, "Andy, I was so embarrassed," because he's not like that at all. He's not going to go. And so he says, "Okay, Logan." They get their coffee and it's hot chocolate. They go sit down and drink it. They get ready to leave. So they get up towards the door, and he said, just as we're getting ready to leave, Logan thought it would be helpful to just remind everybody. So he said, "This is Keegan Bradley, the champion of the Travelers Championship. Bye." And then they left. And Keegan said, "I was dying. I was so mortified." He said,
So adorable.
And but isn't that cool? That's the way that Keegan talks about, like the week before he played the Travelers last year and won, he missed the cut at the U.S. Open. And so he went out on Saturday night because he went home early.
Yeah.
And he played mini golf with his kids. And he said, "You know, I guess that's to re-energize me." And so we can go on and tell stories. We literally, right, Nathan? We could tell stories about every one of those guys and every one of them. I mean, they just have unique stories. Some of them were our young players who gave exemptions to. And
like who is that?
Victor Hovland.
Oh, Victor spilled ice cream on his shirt before his press conference where he was going to announce that he turned pro, and we were trying to clean it up. Patrick is a freshman at UCLA and gets an exemption, shoots 60.
So what year was Patrick?
Oh, 2011.
Oh, God.
About 10 years ago.
Yeah.
10. And Victor was how long ago?
Oh, he was class of
19,
I think.
20.
Yeah,
19, 20.
maybe 18.
Just before.
Yeah.
He's more recent, but Patrick, shot that 60 on a Friday night as just a kid in college.
Wow.
And I mean, it was like when Jim Furyk shot the 58. People were running around the course like crazy. I said, "What happened? Is there a tornado coming? What's going on?" And the tornado was Jim Furyk, and they were running around. Same thing for Patrick that night, that Friday night. I'll never forget it. People are running around and going like, "What's happening?" Patrick Cantley's about to shoot a 60, the lowest by an amateur in a PGA Tour event ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Whoa. Well, I got to say one too about Rory. Rory had never played our tournament before, and I want to say it was probably 2014. Andy is having a conversation with him in the locker room down at Players, and they're talking about the upcoming Olympics. And Rory wasn't sure, honestly, which country he was going to play for. Northern Ireland. Like there was a whole debate he was wrestling within his head. And Andy sat down and talked for probably 15 minutes, and Andy talked about his experience at the Olympics, and Rory was like, "How did you do this? What did you do here? And this and that." And then Rory said, "Andy, I can't play you next year. Well, I can't play you this year. It was a couple months away. I can't play you next year, but in 2 years, I'm going to come and play." And so, Rory was because of part of that relationship, and
he stayed with us
and he is every year he has loved.
We did the same thing. So last story, I guess. But Xander Schauffele.
Oh yeah.
So Xander never played us. Didn't play. So I went up on the range. I said, "I've had enough," in a nice way. I said, "Xander," I said, "Hey, brother." He looked at me and he said, "Brother, what do you mean?" He stopped hitting, stopped practicing. And I said, "Don't you know?" He said, "No." I said, "If you're a member of an Olympic team, we're brothers and sisters. That's how we refer to each other." And he said, "Oh, so you're my brother." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Will you come play us?" "Absolutely." And so it was.
You gotta play the Olympic card. You gotta play it, right?
Every card you have.
Conversations I have never had. Hey, brother, with anybody. So let's just.
Well, I called you my brother earlier just earlier, so you know.
Term, so.
No. Well, good for you, Andy, pulling all the tools out.
Hey,
whatever works.
Whatever works.
That's so funny. Good stories. So what do you actually do? Maybe days of, or a week before, a month before, to make it easier for these players to come here. I mean, other than creating this magical event that they are all hearing about on tour. It is the Players Tour. I mean, we got the award, right, for best from the players, which says a lot.
Yeah.
So, but do you do anything else special throughout the?
This is my joke, and I'll shut up.
No, don't shut.
Pray, pray for no rain.
Pray for no rain.
We read the
okay.
Farmer's Almanac together,
Do.
right?
Right.
We say, no rain, please, no rain, please.
I will say that I'm going to start backwards, Joan. I'm going to tell you one thing that a player said to us. And to your point, we're the only tournament on tour to win the Players' Choice Award twice. And
Twice.
we take that very, very seriously, that the
Okay.
guys
Yeah.
actually said, hey, that's our favorite event, period. But I'm going to work backwards from a comment that a guy gave us a few years ago. He said, I have no idea how you do it. He was not from the United States. I think he was a Canadian player. He said, I have no idea how you do it, but you make this feel like a home game for every single player in this field. And I have no idea how you do it, but thank you very much. And like that to me, like, I'm like, that is the biggest compliment, because what we do, Joan, to try to work up to that statement, we try to say to the guys, okay, how do we make this the easiest trip for you and your family and your whole entourage? And so we start with daycare. We start with the wives and the girlfriends. We start with the caddies, and we say, I mean, we do a charter for the players and 2 guests, a complimentary charter that they get for free. And like, they start there going, wait, you guys are going to like take care of us getting there? We're like, yep, that's all taken care of. And then when they get here, like this year with the caddies, we're providing the caddies cars this year, which is unheard of. I think one tournament in the last 20 years has done that.
Right.
And the caddies are like, wait, you basically, you care about us enough that you're giving us cars?
Amazing.
And we're like, yes. And like, that was a deal that, you know, Andy and the team, we all worked out together. So again, the kids, it's funny, the kids call it Camp Travelers to the parents.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
they tell us that because they come here and they have face painting, they have a 5K, or they have a road race run where they decorate their shirts, they have a wiffle ball game. There's all kinds of, there's dinners for the parents at night. And then we have a volunteer team that basically babysits the kids. And the kids say, we want to go back to Camp Travelers. And we have
Okay.
had players say to us,
Yeah.
when we became a signature event, they said, my kids are going to be furious with me if I don't qualify for your event.
Really?
And we're like, sorry, but yay, we love that, you know?
And even the wives, we provide outstanding clothing. Fiore, we've provided yoga pants. We've got
nice.
one-piece jumpsuits. This year we have another piece of clothing. And I was talking to Austin Eckroats, Sally,
Yeah.
at the Masters. I said, you won't believe what we have for clothing for you,
Cute.
because it's his first time with us.
Nice.
And I said,
nice.
because you're a first timer, I've got 3 years of clothing for you.
Oh,
And,
that's so
and
nice.
she was like so sweet. She was so
Aw.
appreciative. But we take care of, to Nathan's point, we take care of the caddies, the wives, the kids, the players.
You provide the
and-
infrastructure, so it's easy. It's like a no-brainer to come here, right? Because
it's easy.
Yep.
no one's complaining about, you know, the kids or the wives, or no one's complaining, I got to worry about this. You just take care of it. And
Yep.
so it's easy for them to say yes.
So
So
these
that's great.
They can't play every week, and I think we started with, we want to eliminate every single reason that somebody
Barrier.
could possibly
Right.
think that it's a
Think
player
not
event.
to come.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the course, because
Mhm.
how difficult is this course compared to other PGA courses? That's number one, because there is a rumor out there that might be easier or might be shorter. But did you
All
make
rumors.
changes to? Did you make changes from last year? Because there was some comments, right? That
So, I can
tell
give
us
a
about
couple-
that. But tell us about the process, because Travelers isn't
Yeah.
deciding, right, what changes to make
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when and if changes
Correct.
should be made. Who decides when they
Yeah.
should be made, what they should look like in
Yeah.
terms of the changes,
Yeah.
and then how hard is it when the person or the decider tells you guys, all right, you have 1 year to change this course?
Well, you wanna go
I was
first?
just going to say, though,
Yeah.
what you said, Travis has a lot of influence on everything that happens because we pay the bills. and
Okay,
and so
fair,
the
fair.
tour does listen to us,
Great.
and then Nathan can tell the story about how this all works really. But you know, every time a player makes a comment, Nathan and I talk, and we make sure that the tour knows what was said. And
Yes.
it happens last year with Rory's comment, but they knew what he said. But Rory wasn't the only one that made comments. There were
Yeah.
like 5 or 6 guys
Right.
that made comments. So
Right.
I just want to make sure. of this.
So I would say this, Joan, the biggest compliment that you can get, again, as a course, I think they've given to us, they've said it is a fair golf course and it is fun. And when you get the best players in the world to say that is fair and fun,
Okay.
that is an incredible place to start. If a guy doesn't like your course, you can't overcome that. I mean, and there are courses on tour that players don't like. They're like, oh, I just really don't want to go play that event because the golf course is terrible. So that is not our case. The guys like it. It's fair and it's fun. They say it rewards us for good shots. It punishes us for bad shots. And it's a really fun golf course that you can think your way around. And so there have been tweaks made to the golf course for the last 15 years. They changed
Yeah.
the bunkers out because they were getting tired and they weren't competitive anymore, how they were shaped. They put a new tee box up on 17 a few years ago because they wanted a different sight line for the tee shot. They put in a new irrigation system to grow rough in different ways. So they are constantly.
And because of our complaining loudly all the time
Yeah.
about the cart path on 18 fairway,
Okay.
it was the biggest joke. I mean,
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
guys would
Yeah.
hit their drives
Yeah.
like 320, they hit the cart path and they go like 400. And so we had that removed and taken out
Yeah.
to make the course more fair, more playable. But we've had the shortest and the longest players on the tour win here.
So
Yeah,
let me
shortest
back-
and the longest.
I was
That's a
going to
good
say,
point.
Yeah.
actually, I'm going to go back to, there was a year, Joan, we had a playoff where at
Yeah.
the time, statistically,
Yeah.
the PGA Tour's longest hitter was in the playoff, and the PGA Tour's shortest hitter was in the playoff.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And so when
wow.
you have a course that doesn't favor any type player, that's what they like. So there was a few tweaks again made this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Rough grown up in a few areas. They narrowed a fairway.
Okay.
They did a few things, but they called them competitive enhancements, and they ran it by the players. And so many players said, whatever you do not mess up the golf course.
Okay.
And when you have that at your
When
back,
you have
that
right.
is a good spot.
Okay.
Good.
Great. Let's talk about the fan experience. So Nathan, you always have a fan zone down there.
Mhm.
Lots of kids running around, the mini golf. We have the chip and putts, kind of
Yeah.
experience travelers area. We have the Travelers Institute. We have a she golfs area this year. It's new.
Yes.
So what can fans expect maybe different this year, or Andy,
Yeah.
from years past?
I would say they are going to what we are doing for the general fan, right? I feel like on the corporate level, we provide a world-class experience that competes with any of the other professional sporting things in the region. So we kind of have an experience there. For the general admission fan, they are going to see things on site that they've never seen before. We have 5 venues again this year on property that are free and open to the fans. Climate control, great viewing areas. Like, that's unheard of on the PGA Tour, that my general admission ticket's going to get me into all these private hospitality venues. And then also, Andy mentioned one of our partners, Stanley Black & Decker, with Don. He said, I want to create a really cool, engaging fan experience down at the practice facility. What can we do? So we brainstormed on a bunch of ideas, and we're building a massive video monitor down in the practice facility this year.
Okay.
With it's basically the shot tracer technology. It almost looks like a video game where you can see the players hit the ball. It shows how far it goes. The players start to compete against each other, who
fun.
can get
Okay.
closest to the pin. And we built bleachers where the fans can basically engage what's happening with the pros on the putting green and on this huge monitor. So people are gonna walk in and go, oh my goodness, what is that? Like right
Super
away.
cool.
And so we have other viewing areas that we've built out. To your point, the fan zone. I love the fact that kids 15 and under get in free to our tournament.
Yes.
And I love the fact that families will spend hours at our tournament and never watch a shot of golf. They will go down and do arts and crafts, get their face painted, do mini golf, and go, oh my gosh, we're at the Super Bowl of a golf tournament. The best players in the world are here, but my family can spend the entire day here. I mean, golf goes on all day. You can spend 7 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night at the tournament with all this stuff to do. So I would put our fan experience against anything else in the region when it comes to the value and then what people can do on property.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
We have to go quickly through some of these items. So Andy, want to talk about volunteers. So we have 1,000 or so Travelers employees, very, very important to our employees. They're out there volunteering early in the morning, late at night.
Yeah.
Is it too late to sign up, or can they still sign up?
Oh, no, we still have openings in some of the areas.
We have openings.
And so anybody that's interested, just contact us and we'll set you up with the right person on Nathan's staff with Taylor Whiting and get it all done.
Good. I want to take a moment here to actually talk to the audience about something that's really near and dear to my heart. And I know you all are very hugely supportive of this, but I'm proud to share that our She Golf now is celebrating 2 years at Travelers. This is an initiative we founded, and our goal is to get more women playing the game. Here's why. Golf has traditionally been a male-dominated sport, as we all know. Even today, women only make up 25% of all golfers. So that's a missed opportunity in our minds, because one of the greatest things about golf, as you all just said, it's a great way to build friendships, connections, grow your network, grow your business and your career. So the idea to start this She Golfs program really grew out of the 2022 Women's Day, which we're going to talk about in a second, at the championship. I thought we could do something more meaningful to get women involved into the game of golf. So we created a few clinics for golfers and non-golfers who just want to maybe dabble in the sport with a no pressure situation at a lot of the great municipal golf courses we have here in Hartford. So all of our clinics over the past 18 months or so have sold out. And so far, I'm going to announce today that including agents and brokers and our business partners out in the field and in Canada, we've had more than 1,500 employees,
That's great.
agents, and brokers go through our clinics, men and women
Yeah.
alike. Because
Got it.
guess what? Young men
Yeah.
coming into the insurance industry,
Mhm.
we welcome them to be part of our She Golfs movement. So those 100 clinics we had and events have just, and we have lots more planned in the fall. So we have a She
Great.
Golfs template, and any of you out there listening to tell you how to create your own She Golfs events. Again, no pressure situations on municipal golf courses, and just to dabble to see if you like the sport. So it's been a huge success. Watch your emails because we're going to be sending some out to fill up our clinics for the spring and the fall. Okay, so this is all a big wind up to ask you both to talk about how phenomenally successful our Women's Day program has been over the last 15 years or so. What's on deck for this year? Andy, maybe make some news here a little bit. What are we gonna see?
You know, we started this, and you and I talk about this all the time because She Golf's work fits right into this. When we started Women's Day 15 years ago, or whatever, we started because we wanted women to come out to a male-dominated event, right? And to make it a part of it. Because just being at a golf event is a lot of fun. You come out, in our case, we could go to Women's Day, then you go out and enjoy the food and all of the sweets and things like that, walk around in green grass. And it's a lot of fun. It's just a fun day. And so we've grown it a lot over the last 15 years. And I think this year's going to be, again, another great year. We have Leslie Stahl from 60 Minutes, which I'm looking forward to.
Oh, yeah.
Her last version this week, she was over in somewhere with a flak jacket on. So I want to ask questions about that. But I think that having Leslie Stahl there will be phenomenal. But then we have another section, another segment with influencers. Because I think the world of influencers is such a remarkable area. So we have one young woman called Lamb Chop 97, and we have another woman who's one of 4 sisters who have a site called Sister Snacking, and 2 phenomenal. Between the 2 of them, and our host is going to be Amanda Balionis from CBS.
Wonderful. Between
Amanda and Lamb Chop 97 and Sister Snacking, we have well over 1 million followers with those 3 on TikTok, and well over a million in Instagram. Yeah, Instagram, and 2 million on TikTok.
Oh, wow.
So these people are highly popular. And we thought it would be very interesting for the audience to listen about how do you get started? Because they're small business.
They're small business women, right?
Right. And this is so exciting because I know Lamb Chop 97 well. I know her family well. And I just think it would be so fascinating to listen. How did you get into it?
And what is her business? What is her content? What does she talk about? She's a foodie.
Foodie.
Okay, so Lamb Chop 97.
Yep.
Follow her before the tournament.
It's foodie.
Get a taste of what she's putting out there.
Sister Snacking is kind of food too, but they're kind of travel fooding.
Food, travel,
If you're going to go to a city and you want the best restaurants, you get to Sister Snacking
and see where they are.
Yep.
Okay.
And so it's going to be remarkable. And Amanda actually, Balionis, has about 250,000 on Instagram.
Okay.
So they're all of them. This is going to be a really good. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about both of them. And then we'll have Citizen Travelers for a small segment at the beginning as well.
Wonderful.
And so it's going to be a fun day, great food, great weather.
Great. Sounds great. So Leslie Stahl from 60 Minutes is our headliner. Social media influencers and a little Citizen Travelers, civic engagement sprinkled on top. So you don't want to miss Women's Day.
Yeah.
All right, let's also talk about one of the biggest parts of this, which is charity. So it's really at the heart of the championship, with 100% of the tournament's net proceeds going to charitable organizations like the First Tee program and other programs. So can you talk about this aspect of the tournament and how it fits with the Travelers' Promise? So maybe Nathan, you first. You're chair of the board here in Hartford of charity organizations. What does it mean for this community? And let's talk about first, golf is really the only sport that has net proceeds going to a charity. I don't see the NBA. I don't see the NFL, right? I don't see the tennis association. No one's donating through their sport proceeds, right? They may have a charitable foundation.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it's a different animal, right? How's it different?
I would say it's probably a different priority, to be honest. I mean, but the way that the tour is set up, and I think one of the reasons, I don't want to speak for Andy, one of the reasons Travelers got so excited about this event is when you look at the PGA Tour, to your point, if you take the NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, NASCAR, you take all the other professional sporting organizations and you combine what they give to charity, the PGA Tour gives more to charity than all of those combined. And like, you just kind of let that resonate for a second on what that means. I mean, that is a massive number. And I kind of give this analogy sometimes that if you had called the New England Patriots, if you had Robert Kraft after a New England Patriots playoff game, get on the microphone and say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all your support. Thanks for the suites. Thanks for the tickets. Thanks for all the advertising support. Everything that we made tonight, we're going to give back to Boston and New England charities.
Yeah.
It'd be the biggest news story ever.
Yeah. Right.
But we do that every Sunday. Alan gets on the green and says,
yeah,
thank you for the corporate support, for the
Right.
tickets. Everything we made, we're giving back to charity.
Yeah.
And that is a
Remarkable.
motivator for, I mean, our sales team. That's a motivator for us to Andy's point, we run a business, and the tighter we run our business, the more profitable we run our business. That means more charities that we know. We work with these charities. We know them personally by name. We know they're going to be able to do more amazing work in the community. So that is an incredibly motivating factor to the fact that 180 charities last year changed thousands of lives in our region because of support we were able to give them. And when you make that connection, if that's not motivating to you to do your job, well, I'm not sure what is.
We're always trying to grow it. And, you know, I would like to see more of the charitable organizations that we give to be focused on issues that in society are today, and mental health, critically important, food security, is critically homelessness.
Right.
And so we're trying to get more. And so if people know of charitable organizations in those areas, they need to go to Nathan, because those are critical areas that need help today. We need to be supportive of it. I mean, listen, we do tremendous work. We've given over $28 million to over 900 charities since 2007. So we've done a lot of good, but there's a lot of good to be done in the years ahead.
So just for the audience who's listening, are you looking for new charities to come on board?
All
the time?
Every year we try to recruit charities to get involved with us, just like we recruit players. There is no cap on the number of charities that we can work with. And there is zero cost to get involved with us.
Zero cost. Did you hear this?
When you get involved in our charitable programs, we pay for all of the website back maintenance and build out. We pay for, there's ways to make donations. We handle all the credit card fees. Webster Bank does a match of 15% match. There is so much. I'm going to challenge everyone listening today. If you sit on a board, if you care about something in your community and your charity is not involved with a tournament, you are missing out on money, and you're missing out on a platform. Period. End of story. Like, send them our way in Grube at travelerchampionship.com. We have Taylor Whiting runs all of our charitable programs. If you care about something and you're involved and they're not involved, you're missing out. They're missing out. I mean, it is the thing that distinguishes the PGA Tour from, I think, every other sports property.
And the last thing I was gonna add was that you made an important point a minute ago. Alan Schnitzer, our chairman and CEO, Alan is so supportive and behind this that it's unbelievable. Jay Fishman was, and Alan has been for many years, and is our critical partner. And without Alan being supportive of this, it doesn't go the way it's going now. And so and Alan knows that, you know, we give over 24 million a year at Travelers to organizations, and to say that we gave over 28 million to 900 organizations since 2007, this is all big stuff. This is important stuff for our communities to be better, to take care of people who have to be taken care of and need help. This is like really important stuff.
Okay, wonderful. We could go on and on and on, but we have a lot of audience questions coming in. So I'm just going to get the cue cards here of what we're going to ask you. First question coming in from one of our agent brokers in Colorado wants to know any amateurs this year, and who are they, and how do they get selected? Because it's different now, right?
Great question.
It is.
Is this different this year?
We can do back and forth. I mean, I was going to say, just the rules around being a signature event is that we only get four exemptions these days. We used to get 8.
Okay.
So now we only get 4. And when we got 8, we used to give 2 or 3 to the young collegiate players coming out of college. We wanted to go on the PGA Tour. Now we only have 4. And one of the rules of being a signature event is that you have to have your PGA Tour card to actually play in the tournament. So we can't give it to them.
Okay.
But
here's the kicker. But
the winner of PGA Tour University, which is a new thing.
Okay.
The winner is a collegiate golfer.
Okay.
They come out when they win PGA Tour U, they get their PGA Tour card.
Okay.
We can invite them. So we're going to have one of our 4 exemptions go to the winner of the PGA Tour U, who will have he will have his card. We
Yeah.
can invite him, but he's basically was an amateur yesterday, and today he's a pro.
Is he already a pro, or we don't know?
No,
Not till he wins.
No, not
So
till he wins.
there is
Okay.
somebody, there's
When
basically
does that
two,
happen?
it happens at the end of this
June,
month,
Okay.
early
yeah,
June. So
June
there's
1st.
two young
Okay.
kids that are competing right now to win
Okay.
PGA Tour U,
Okay.
college players.
Uh-huh.
And to Andy's point, and let's just say it's no accident that we worked out a deal with the PGA Tour to make sure we were able to give that exemption
Yeah.
to that winner, because
Okay.
our bridge to the young kids is very, very important.
Yes.
So
Yes.
to Andy's
Best
point,
part.
the tour
Uh-huh.
listens when he
Yeah.
picks up the phone and says, hey, this is important to us,
Uh-huh.
this title.
Uh-huh.
So we will have we will have the top college player in our field this year that wins PGA Tour U. So
Okay.
that's how we're able to do that this year.
Okay. Okay, you knew this was coming at you, so we have a few questions on the partnership between the PGA and Live.
Mhm.
So can you please tell us, and again, don't give any inside information away. Let's just talk
No,
about
no.
what's in the public domain, and
Yeah.
based on your decades of doing this, how do you think this is going to end? Or can you just tell us
Yeah.
actually tell us the process of where we are in the negotiations now? I know there's lots of talk about funding and who's funding what, but you don't have to get into that. But
Yeah.
given where we are now, what should we expect over the next year?
Yeah.
And where do you see this ending, if you want to talk about that?
Let me tee this up,
Why
and
don't
then
you tee it
can
up?
take it, because there's
Okay.
a lot more that he's involved in that I'm not
Yeah.
involved in.
Okay.
So
And I
would
can't say
this.
most of what I know. I
Good.
can't say.
Don't.
I would say
Okay.
this: the PGA Tour has always been an aspirational place for the best players in the world to get. If you played on the European Tour, you wanted to get here. If
Right.
you were in college, you wanted to get here. If you were a PGA Tour card member holder, you wanted to stay here.
Yep.
That is no different. When you talk to the
Okay.
Live guys, Andy and I talked to them at Augusta. They all talk about, how are we going to get back? How are we going to combine? How are we, like, I want to be there. How do we work together? Like, it is still, the PGA Tour is aspirationally what it has always been. Now, there's a massive money game in play here, right? With the Saudis and the amount of money that those guys were offered to leave the PGA Tour and go play somewhere else was just, I mean, enormous sums of money.
Right.
But even still taking that, you still get the guys. Rahm still talks about, hey, how are we going to get back? You know, Bryson talks about, hey, we're going to figure out a way to get back together. And so the tour is still what it always has been. People want to get here.
Okay.
It might be a little more complicated now because of the interjection of the whole new tour and things like that. But I don't know. That's my 2 cents to tee it up. The guys still talk about wanting to get here. How do we get back and play Travelers? I mean, you talked to a handful of those guys. Andy,
Right.
that's going to be the first event we play when we get back.
I think
So the player
yeah.
intentions have to be driving the negotiations, because everybody who's negotiating this is hearing from them. They want to get back, right?
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah. I mean, I would say,
Somewhat.
yeah.
I think that all I can say,
All you can say.
all I can say is that I have spent time with John Henry. I've spent time with Sam Kennedy, and just a tidge to say hi to Art Blank. But there are some very, very powerful sports executives. John Henry owns Liverpool, the Premier League. He owns Red Sox. He owns Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, and based on a couple of conversations with John, some with Sam Kennedy, some with the other investors in SSG, which is the strategic sports group that invested up to $3 billion in the tour. I have great confidence in those people.
Yeah.
These guys are all seasoned sports executives. They're the CEOs of their companies.
Right.
They know what they're doing. So I feel really good that, you know, and I do talk to the commissioner once in a while, but I think that I feel very confident that, I don't know when, but I think I'm very hopeful, I guess I'll say, that sometime in 2024, we'll see things get back closer to being aligned for golf. Because I think it's important for golf to have golf aligned. But I think we've got the right people working and talking with PIF, and PIF is the source of the funding, right? So let's see what happens. But I'm hopeful. I think we've got some really good people working with Jay Monahan, talking to the PIF people. And if it can happen, I think it will happen.
So the right players are in place.
Yes, the right
You just have
players
to give
in
them
place.
time and maybe take the bright shine light of the media off of them and let them.
And Tiger's involved, and
Tiger's
Rory's involved.
How is Tiger and Rory involved? What is their role? They have a specific role?
Part of the negotiating team. There's a committee of the investment for profit element of the tour that's new.
Okay.
So there's a committee of that. I think there's 5 of them.
I think so, yeah.
But John Henry's one of them. I know Tiger's one. I know Rory's one. And I think one of the other board members is a member. But we've got the right people. I think they have the right people working on it.
Okay. How about this question from an audience member, another agent and broker in California? Can you share one of the most unexpected turn of events or the most memorable highlight that occurred during one of our tournaments over the last 15 years ago for you personally? What was a personal, like, oh my gosh, was it Jim Furyk in the 58? Was it Jordan Spieth coming out of the bunker there?
You know what? What I'm going to tell you is none of that.
None of that.
My most memorable moment was in 2008. A guy named Webb Simpson, right, said to me on the range, "Mr. Bessette, thank you very much for my exemption. I really appreciate it." He was a kid out of college. We gave him an exemption. He was on the range. And I said, "Webb, all I ask of you is when you get famous someday, don't forget about us. Remember us." Fast forward in 2012, Webb Simpson wins the US Open. He came back a week later and he found me.
Oh.
And it gives me shivers up my spine to even tell you this story. And he said, by then it was going with Mr. Bessette. "Andy, I told you that I would be back when I did something famous." And I gave him a hug. I said, "Man," and I talk to Webb all the time, every year. And he, to me, that's one of the most important things in life, is that when people keep their word, when they don't have to,
And they don't have to.
and they
When no
come
one's looking.
back,
Right.
that's a real person. That's hard to do sometimes. And so that's a story. That's not
It's a wonderful
of all
story.
the stuff. I'll never forget that as far as I live.
Nathan, how about you?
I look at that picture behind you, Joan, and I look at that's 18, right, with the crowds and the fans. And I think one of the moments for me in 2020 when there were no fans allowed on property, right? We still put the
remember
tournament
that.
on. And
Yes.
Andy and I were standing player
There was
left
like
up on the
100 of
hill.
us or
Yeah,
something.
just
It was
about.
37 around the green.
37 around the green?
But no, Andy and I were standing there, and we, at the end of it, we were looking at each other going, that the energy, the passion makes this event. Like the people that care so much, the volunteers, the fans, like that is what I think makes us unique. And the players see it, the fans see it, and we didn't have it that year. And Andy and I looked at each other, we're like,
Yeah.
oh, like what, like the personality of who we are, the energy, the
Yes.
ownership of what this event means to our community and what it means from a sense of pride to everybody involved. It was like we had this punch to the gut that like nobody got to like have it that year. And
Right.
so we were like, oh my gosh, 364 days. It is coming back in 21. You know, we're going to come
Yes.
back. So it was this moment where you
Boy, that's
realize what this
true.
event means to the community. And you're
Yeah.
like, we are going, like,
Yeah.
you feel a sense of responsibility that you want this
Yeah.
to be what people are proud of.
Yeah.
Well, it sure is, and all that. Listen, our time has flown by. I cannot thank you
Oh,
both
okay.
enough
Thank you, John.
for an amazing conversation. We broke some news here today, but
You did.
we.
I broke no
You
news.
broke news. You
I
stayed
broke
on.
no news. I'm keeping my job.
And he didn't kick me either. This is
No.
really good.
Please come back next year, please.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay.
That's the goal. Get
All
invited
right.
back.
And thank you everyone who's joining us today. There's a link in our the chat there to the survey. Please fill it out. Let us know what you thought about today's program and future programming. What else do you want to have on these sessions? If you're a podcast person, please add us to your playlist. The Travelers Institute Risk and Resilient podcast, of which this conversation will be turned into a podcast on Apple or Spotify. So subscribe today. See the link in our chat there. And I hope you'll join us for other upcoming programs. We have an exciting lineup over the next couple of weeks. June 12th, we're going to give you an update on personal insurance with Karen Eckert and Bill Zielinski, two of our leaders here at Travelers. June 26th, we're going to look at middle market with our leader, Scott Higgins, in that business. And last but not least, we're on the road. We're on the road for our national cybersecurity education tour. You can see all these places we've been in the last couple of weeks and where we're headed in the month of June. It's going to be very busy. So we've got Tampa, Nashville, Chicago, and St. Louis. So if you find yourself in any one of these cities, please come join us. Registration's open and free. We'll drop a link in the chat there. So visit us at travelsinstitute.org for all the replays of our program. This will be put up within a week. Thank you for being with us today. It's really been an amazing pleasure to speak with you both. And we're just so grateful, one, that you're both in the roles that you're in. I can see you absolutely love your job. So why would you ever leave? But we're grateful and thankful to have you. And, the fact that you go out and talk to the players to bring them to Hartford, Connecticut the week after the Open, you've done a tremendous job with this. So thank you,
Thank you
very much for your engagement.
Thank
and
you.
have a great afternoon, everyone. Speak soon.